Welcome to Never Too Serious with Scott and Dave. I'm Scott.
And I'm Dave.
Dave, I'm really glad that our wives color coordinated us today.
Yeah,
So funny. So just before
she always lays my clothes out. So
just before the podcast, so I show up and Dave's wearing a blue shirt and he's sitting down here. He said, "I'm really glad that I didn't choose to wear the lighter blue shirt today."
I put it on too, and I'm like,
Yeah, we don't coordinate this stuff.
Yeah,
so.
But it is quite often that we get it on the same.
I think we're
close to.
We've like been around each other enough through the years that I think we have a very similar style of clothing. So
yeah, I'll surprise you next time. I promise.
I don't want you to.
All right, damn it! I had a couple of good ideas too.
Yeah, I think you probably see too much skin. Okay, let's do the show. What do you say? Yeah.
Yep.
Today we're gonna do a little bit more politics. I know sometimes it turns people off, but we kind of talked about like freedom and liberty and how important that is. And we thought this would be a good topic for us.
Turns me off too. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I should just have it.
People are. I agree.
Hasn't enough people died and fought for our rights to have liberty and to have our freedoms? It seems like they're getting taken away, and I don't really want. I'm going to do my best to not be on one side or the other, but it's going to be a little bit hard here. But it seems like some people are saying that we respect all your rights, but at the same time, there feels like they're trying to strip them away. In fact, they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's laws being passed without us even voting on them. It's just I'm getting confused. I can't keep up with them.
Yeah, it seems like there's more executive actions,
right,
and less voter decisions.
Maybe there is liberty, but they're just taking too much liberty with the pandemic as an excuse to do certain things or pass certain laws.
I do think that we do get conditioned over time to relinquish what we used to consider as freedoms, liberties.
Right.
I want to say that. I mean, I'm not like a huge history guy, but I want to say that through the years, people, they kind of gravitate towards security, to feeling like they're taken care of. Like that seems to be a natural thing for humans. And I want to say that folks, as they gravitate towards that, are more willing to relinquish what we would consider freedoms and liberty.
You have to pay for that. It costs something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just have what it takes to have that security without you having to go through the same system that keeps you secure.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be treated like a possible bad person to find out which one's the bad person. So example is during 9/11, the security in the airports heightened up. I can't even tell you the percentage. It was huge. And a lot of people were just pissed. I was one of them, and it sucks to go through it, being in incredibly long lines, and
insecurity lines,
yeah, and take a long time, and then even pulled off to another side to get searched, but that's what we've asked for or was given to us. But we wanted that, we accepted that because we do feel safer on the airlines. We do. I mean. Something gets through all the time, but not all the time, but something will get through, rare, but it'll get through. You can't be perfect, but that's you can't just run around in the airports and stuff like that anymore.
Well, you obviously are old enough, right? You and I won't just say you, but you are older than me. You remember the days.
You point stuff out.
You remember the days we'd go to Portland International Airport, and you could get pretty much all the way to the gate.
All the way.
You wouldn't. In fact, the folks that were coming to visit, like to see you off or see you when you came back, could be there at the gate,
right,
greeting you,
sitting in the same seats they sit in to board the plane. Yeah. And I feel like we've talked about this recently, but we even had our church when we were younger set up a scavenger hunt throughout the whole airport. Let all of us kids run wild. And we did. And it was great. We literally were sprinting up and down all the places, going up on all the escalators not. Yeah. And, you can't do that now.
No. No, you can't. Okay, so I have a little definition here of liberty because maybe some people look at liberty differently.
Yeah, maybe I don't know what it is.
This
maybe I want something I'm not really entitled to.
I think you're probably right in line with this definition. So, the definition that I found online: the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views.
Oh, see, I see a loophole.
Uh-oh, what's the loophole?
It can't be pushed on you by authority.
Mm-hmm.
But your fellow neighbor could. I mean, right?
They're not technically authority, I guess, yeah.
No, so maybe that's the whole deal is they're pushing it upon making, society push it on you.
Yeah, like
they light the fire and then that society try to change the culture and then they try to stay out of it, but they're not really staying out of it.
Was it last Thanksgiving when we had our governor telling people that they should tattle on their neighbors if they had too many people at Thanksgiving dinner? Yeah.
That sounds a little bit un-American.
It seems like that was a long time ago, but it was just last year.
Yeah, it was just a little bit ago. We should not forget.
Yeah.
We were mistreated.
So, and then the next one is the definition of freedom. And what I found is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. I mean, to a certain extent, I'd follow along with that one. A lot of people think of freedom in different ways. A lot of people reference slavery. Obviously, you're not free if you're a slave to someone else. And this goes way back, not just, the black slaves in the United States or in other places, but in other cultures.
Yeah, throughout the world, yeah.
Yeah, it's gone on for a really long time. And, people, I think, pretty well can identify what freedom is. The problem is now, I think, in our society is people are starting to manipulate what that means, where they think that they can be free from being offended.
Right. I feel just in the past 10 years, but maybe in the last 5 especially, I feel like I'm not even supposed to think, or at least not let it leak out of my head what I'm thinking,
I found this online as well. It says, what are the 3 types of freedom? First kind of freedom is freedom from. So a freedom from like constraints of society. The second is freedom to. So the freedom to do what you want. And thirdly, the freedom to be. So, so you can have the freedom to become whatever you want to be.
Right.
And I think for the most part, United States, we're pretty close to that. I think when you start talking about the freedom from being offended, I think that's where that's not one of these freedoms, our freedom of for free speech. Free speech has to be,
but our free speech isn't diverse. They're only wanting us to say and speak certain things and not say other certain things,
Okay, yeah. So in terms of free speech,
they'll get canceled.
Free speech has nothing to do with whether something is offensive or not.
Right, absolutely. It's the ability to say it.
Yeah, and it has to remain that way. And we're living in a society right now where that is not the case. Where people are they think that their being offended is so bad that it should restrict the freedom to do your speech.
Your verbal, if being offended verbally is violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least that's what they say.
Remember way back when you were a kid, they said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah, but that was never true then for me either, though. Yeah. I mean, I was a relatively tough kid, but I heard some pretty nasty things and hurt my feelings before.
Oh, where are our tissues here?
I know it. They're not here for a reason.
Yeah, man up.
Sack up, boy.
But I think, right now, people can get offended. They can, listen to someone say some hurtful thing, but we're just coddling so many people to continually perpetuate this downward spiral of you got to watch what you say so you don't offend anyone.
So this is part of it is you hear certain people out there screaming and hating what one other side is saying and talking about how much they support the First Amendment. And I say that you can tell what a real supporter of the First Amendment is. They want their opposer, or I'll just go with that, to be able to speak. Everybody that I know that truly supports the First Amendment wants the person talking against you to have that right to. And not that we want to hear it, it's just that's what it's about.
Yeah, there's a lot of silencing now.
Absolutely is. Everybody is. I think Dr. Jordan Peterson just got canceled, or whatever you want to call it, banned on Twitter unless he removes a certain statement.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not doing it. What's he care? It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. But that guy's a Canadian.
But how about, the point of people they'll be able to say what they want, and then, society could, hurl sticks, if you will, not physical, but, back in the day, if somebody said something, jackassed, everybody around him would ridicule him right then and there, but you don't need to silence them. You can't cut dialogue.
Yeah. Okay, so there's, how do I say this without being too derogatory, but I run into people who are very sensitive to other people's feelings. And they constantly say that we need to be sensitive to other people's feelings. And I think to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, generally speaking, I'm a nice guy. I care about someone else's feelings. But there's a certain point where I no longer care. If they're trying to force me into doing something or saying something or being something that I'm not, then I care less about offending them when I say, no, I'm not going to do that. Or I give my philosophical argument against whatever their argument is. There are some people who will say that we really need to take care of those people in such a way because the mental strain from being offended or having some hurtful thing said to you can be debilitating over time. And my response is it's still totally managed between your two ears. It's all mental. Like, I think we live in a world where people are not tough enough mentally to get over stuff. There are reasons why there are laws against assault, or battery or anything else that's physically happening to you. And there aren't, as far as I know, there aren't laws that restrict free speech that might be offensive. Now, hate speech is one of those things that's like, I'm sorry, you can say that is hateful speech, but again, it's speech. Hateful speech is still not physical violence. Physical violence might result from someone saying something, but again, there's laws that say you're not supposed to physically be violent. You're not supposed to assault someone that way. And
if somebody walks down the street and says, hey, yo, mama, that might happen. You might have it coming.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there was a day where that was an appropriate response.
Right.
But my point is that I just think that we are in a stage right now in our society that we're not spending enough time making people more mentally tough.
Right.
We're coddling and allowing
what
people.
We're doing is we're not teaching them how to fish. We're giving them a fish. We're enabling them to worsen. Now, you said something I couldn't break in there to say, but you said something about, them having, over time, it gets worse. It does, because we enable them, and they do deteriorate more over time because we're patting them. Yeah. And every time, gosh, I've said this before and people don't like it, about, what's it like? How do you raise a kid? Because a lot of people have, animals or pets before they have a kid. It's like raising a dog. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah, I'm dealing with a puppy right now.
But what I mean is you have to give it attention, you have to discipline it, or else it's going to act up. Now, if the dog is scared and you pet it, or angry and you give it love or say good job, mm-hmm. you enabled it, and next time it's going to be quicker to feel the fear or the anger, and the next time, and then if you keep doing it, they deteriorate even more, and then they have some mental illness of being scared or death to be touched or want to go kill anything that comes by, mm-hmm. and we're doing that to them by nobody should be bullied. There's a difference between bullied and tough love. Like, no, pull your shit together. No, you're not more special than anybody else. That's the whole point, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to be equal. So, no special privileges for everybody, but don't take it away from people. Don't try to gain something by taking away from somebody else.
Yeah. Well,
or push your stuff on anybody else.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go too deep into like equity, but this is where equity. This is where I struggle with equity because our Constitution really has. Number one, it's supposed to restrict what the government can do to us, but it's supposed to create this sort of level playing field. Like people are supposed to be treated equally, and we weren't always. Certain aspects of our population were not treated equally, but in today's age, we have a lot of laws that are supposed to guarantee equality, and we're now introducing equity, and equity gives certain people advantages over others. It treats certain people in a different way than others in order to then reach this particular goal, and it flies in the face of equality, which is what our country was supposed to be.
But our government is playing games, in my opinion, and screwing around with people, and pushing people onto each other. To start fights between people instead of bringing people together. They say that they're bringing people together, but they're not.
Yeah.
And just by saying, hey, these guys over here think you guys all should die and don't deserve any rights. And we're like, what? We never said that. Who are you? Now, mind you, yes, there's obviously people that say that. But as a whole, what? We don't believe that or say that.
Yeah.
But yet that's all they take, and they'll take it and run with it. And I don't know. They abuse it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of people in this world that without, let's say politics, let's say social media, there are a lot of people in this world who get along great. They don't bring into the circle, the space that they're in. They don't bring in things that would be automatically offensive to someone else, generally speaking. But I think with politics and like social media, there's an opportunity to have a lot of negativity brought in. And I think that in general, in the real world where you're standing face to face to people generally aren't like that.
Well,
now, unless
you could have
living
neighbors,
in New York, maybe.
You could have neighbors,
LA.
and they could be living 3, 5 years, 10 years together just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Black Lives Matter come around.
Mm-hmm.
Put a sign. And they have the right to believe whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
But who started that?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a group, but or who fanned that flame. Let me say that.
Mm-hmm.
Our government fanned that flame and encouraged them to be that. But not just Black Lives Matter, but then you have people getting offended because of there's American flag on somebody's doorstep, and they think they have the right to tell you to take it down or remove it themselves. But
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
never thought I would see that
in America. Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I know. I fly my flag proudly.
Yeah.
Some of the other areas that I was looking at for freedom and liberty, we have religious freedom, which is unique to, I think, the United States. There are some other countries where religion is not that big of a deal anymore, but originally religion, it was very strict. Like you weren't allowed to be a Jew in certain places. You weren't allowed to be a Christian.
I think that's still a problem in some places.
No, you're right. In like some Middle Eastern countries,
yeah, for sure,
there's definitely some restrictions on that. But the United States was founded on the ability for you to practice your religion freely and not have a state mandated, religion to follow.
Yeah, I've seen different types of churches, like literally like across from each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't try to burn each other down.
And they share a dining hall. They do poker.
Yeah,
no, not poker, but bingo.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah. They don't gamble. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's one of those areas that I think for us that's unique. We were founded on that freedom,
right?
Freedom of speech
right.
and freedom of religion, two big ones. Some of the other, there are some other like let's talk about gun rights. That's a big one for the United States. Now, it's under attack, I believe, right now.
It's hugely under the attack, and that's one of them when I mentioned, like, things getting passed without being voted on. What the heck is going on? Like, right now, they're trying to take even more rights away from our gun rights in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, when the hell is this happening? Where is my rights to be able to have my say in this? And so far they have been shot down, but guess what? It gets weaker. They're going to get what they want eventually, and that's a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to move, but I really like guns. Would I move because of my rights for guns to a place so I could have them? That would be kind of drastic, right?
No, you would.
Have I thought about it? Sounds like it. But I don't care if you're on the left or right. I want everybody to have the right. I'm not going to make everybody have a gun. I want them to have the right to have one.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Well, okay, so I think I might have mentioned this in another podcast, but Canada, Justin Trudeau had mentioned that they're doing this major crackdown on gun ownership in Canada. And he was saying, there's a quote, he said that in Canada, we don't allow our citizens to buy guns for personal safety. You can buy them for hunting. And that's it. And
what do you think they're going to use if somebody breaks in their house?
Well, but then how does that get prosecuted if you're not allowed to use it for personal self-defense? We've had a lot of, in this particular area that I'm from, we've had a lot of shootings, which is very abnormal. We've gone years and years without really any shootings. There might be a shooting in the town next to us or something, but we've had, within a couple of weeks, different instances of shootings that were, as far as I know, unrelated to each other.
Right.
And I feel really confident that someone should be carrying in case something like that happens so that innocent people aren't harmed.
No. That means if there's a couple of bad guys shooting it out, that means you need to get rid of your gun, Scott.
That's the problem.
Does that make sense?
It makes no sense.
Come on.
Yeah.
Even the people that are against it, come on.
Yeah. Well,
how about this? If whatever their argument, whoever's against guns and that feel like they need to carry something for protection, whether it's their phone to call for help or mace or a taser, whatever. Okay, what if, and that's what they want and feel, what if you don't have it? How do they feel about that? If there is, like, I am the person that will call the cops, that's who I am. If I am in trouble, that's what I'll do. What if you don't have that? What if we take your phone away? That's their choice to make how they want to protect themselves in America. That's gives us that right. And that's great. But don't take away mine. Don't take away how I want to. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people don't think about it. It's like when people talk about pit bulls. People hate pit bulls and the owners get very offended. And rightfully so. Usually a pit bull is a bad dog, usually because of the owners. But maybe that's a bad example for where I'm going for.
Wait for the hate mail.
Yeah, I know. No, who cares? No. I think pit bulls could be a little bit testy, but I think they could be a decent dog if you have a decent owner.
I agree.
So, but, the gun owners out there, though, when they say, hey, you can't have those guns, we're like, dude, we're all responsible. Are you kidding me? All of the 99.99% of us are responsible, and it's offensive to us. Like, why would you take them away from us? What have I ever done?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that I, whatever dime I spend, taxes, it goes back to them. You're welcome. I spent it on it, There's all these kinds of taxes, for a gun, so somebody's getting paid up the hill. And,
if you look at, I wish I had these stats. I can't remember the guy's name now. He wrote a book that talked about like gun ownership and, shootings and this sort of thing. And he was referencing something about how if you looked at the statistics of law-abiding citizens, the group that have concealed carry permits are the most law-abiding citizens of any group out there.
I have said this, and I don't care. It might make me look weird, but sometimes I could be a little bit vocal out there when somebody pisses me off. But I notice that when I'm carrying my gun, I'm like far more well behaved. You know, I know it seems funny, but you know,
you have to be.
I don't want any issue. I'm not going to create an incident just to want to pull it out.
Yeah,
there might be a couple weirdos out there that hope for that to happen, but boy, that's not me ever.
No,
ever.
And those are pretty rare. Most of those are criminals carrying illegally anyway.
Yep.
Okay, so other things. So property rights.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Property rights. We have. I mean, that's changing as we speak with COVID and stuff. But property rights, that was a big deal to Americans, is having the ability to own property, and because if you think about where we came from, you know, back on the other side of the Atlantic, you couldn't have property of your own.
Yeah, it's funny. You claim your land.
Yeah,
it's yours.
Yeah, in the United States, we have the ability to purchase land and it be our own. And when we own that property, we have certain rights. We have protections. Of course, that does change as soon as you start getting prosecutors who don't prosecute people who are violating those laws. But generally, this is an area that's unique to, you know, Americans. This is something that's a big deal to Americans. Another one, search and seizure, illegal searches and seizures. You have to have, you know, a judge's warrant, I guess. Is that what it's, am I using the wrong term here?
They need a warrant, yeah.
In order to search your property.
But I tell you what, they're going off of, more so these days than ever, it seems like they're going off of, what they say, ask for forgiveness later kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how many times the people will either break in their house and they're saying, hey, what the hell are you doing? You can't be in here. You can't do that. You just kicked in our door. You can't. Because there was a time where people would be on the other side of the door. You can't do nothing, ha ha ha. And they can't. Mm-hmm. But people get either too irate and break that line that you can't see, but it's supposed to be there. Or, you know, or they just don't care anymore because it seems like it's more often than you think. But same with when they pull people over and I'm not just talking about people that are a pain in the ass. I'm talking about, you know, they're going through their vehicles without, you know, having the right, you know.
Yeah, without probable cause.
And to make up a probable cause.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, how you're acting is suspicious. Suspicious? What the hell suspicious? Now you're getting irate. I'm not getting irate. Well, did you hear your pitch or your tone? What do you mean? Oh, there you go. And they're like, now you're arrested just for what? No reason. But I don't know.
Well, I agree. But even in those situations, you have to be submissive to the authorities.
Yeah, you do.
You have to wait until you've had your turn to say something, potentially in court.
And here's this. I am okay with that kind of stuff because I'm okay with getting my butt kicked if I do something wrong. And I'm not the guy that wants to do anything wrong.
So this does lead me towards this next one, which is rule of law. We're supposed to have, you know, equal justice under the law. So if you're talking about getting pulled over and having whatever it is, invoking whatever law that you broke, that should be equally applied across the board. But it doesn't seem to be that way anymore.
No, not anymore. And, you know, usually it's, you know, people like to utilize like Hillary Clinton as an example, you know, but do I dare say, you know, even on our humble level of civilians, you know, they have people like the January 6 people that have been in jail. I don't think that that's right. I think they could be getting prosecuted and stuff, but I don't know what the hell they're still in jail for.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. And yet, you know, I have all those Antifa people that got taken out of jail by somebody.
That weren't prosecuted. They were just...
Not at all.
Yeah.
And, you know...
Yeah, it's certainly not equal justice under the law.
It's not. It's just one of the freaking... And I only use that as an example of things I could be. I could go be an Antifa guy or whatever, everything else, and get in trouble. But I'm talking from us to the top. It's just a disaster.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about these prosecutors who don't prosecute people. I mean, they do in some situations, but they don't apply the law equally to the people that are presented in front of them.
Yeah. They
choose which people get to go free, which ones are going to pay the price for whatever the crime was.
It would be easier if there was more of a standard so everybody would know, okay, you rape somebody, well, it would be really nice if it was, well, you're doing 99 years right off the bat and throwing some torture too, but have a standard so maybe somebody knows, because when you have a kid, and I'm going to try to be accurate here, but there was a younger kid that raped I think they were either just in college or in high school, and the judge let him off with a couple of days because he didn't want to ruin the kid's life.
Oh,
he didn't want to destroy the whole, he's a young kid. And I'm like, what the hell is that? There needs to be a standard so that one people or group or anybody could have a excuse for doing such a deed, because I'm a weirdo. If you steal my pencil in my car, I'm going to want to kick your ass for equally. And I think, if you steal, it doesn't have to be Grand Theft Auto or, a burger, you should be getting thrown in jail. Maybe the same. I don't know. I'm a weirdo.
Yeah. But, we don't even know all the laws that are on the books. There's so many of them.
Oh my gosh.
You could be...
We'll find out.
Yeah, who knows? How many laws did we break today? I don't know.
I might have done a little bit over the speed limit on the way home since I left a little early and felt... a little excited to leave, but
we don't really know all the laws that we're breaking.
Absolutely,
but at least those laws should be applied equally across the board.
I know that we're going to be doing another one because it's fun. We're going to be doing another show on weird laws, so maybe we'll be able to enlighten some weird laws in America, so that are actually active, just to make everybody be safe. Yeah.
Agreed.
We look out for our listeners.
Another area, free market. It's not exactly free, but the marketplace. Capitalism.
Yep.
United States embraces capitalism to a certain extent. It's not 100%. There are a lot of people who
capitalism has
hate
a really bad name on it for some reason lately.
Yeah, there's some what they call crony capitalism, but certainly capitalism as a whole has been a benefit to...
Well, absolutely. People are against it, but it absolutely is. Some say that, in order to... socialism is going to fail regardless, but, without capitalism, you can't even have socialism. That's how strong it is. It has to be the body that the leech, which is socialism, sucks you dry.
Well, I don't know that we've ever come as close to socialism as we are today.
Absolutely. You're right.
It's really, and the thing is that more and more people are embracing the ideology of socialism. We've had major candidates who dang near became president and currently now president that supports socialist ideologies.
Yeah, and to that, and, the president having a little chit-chat with us, dividing our nation in two. And so now there's nobody... And because now everybody that's on one side is now essentially a terrorist, and on the other side, hey, they could put through whatever they want because they're bad guys. Now they could go ahead and do their, what is that? Their green tea or whatever the hell it's called. No, they're green. They're going green and be a socialist. They could push their whatever agenda they really want.
Yeah, I don't think the people who are socialists totally understand that in order for their ideology to actually be implemented, they have to give up a lot of their freedoms. And one of them is probably this thing that they keep using, which is freedom of speech. You can't be, if you're going to be a part of a system that forces people into a certain way of life, you can't be the vocal activist who's out there fighting against it, because then you get silenced by the government, by the people who are in power. So if you're not the person, in power, good luck surviving that. And any country that has adopted a socialist society has pretty much failed. And, there are some, is it Sweden? I think it's Sweden, who's very angry at Bernie Sanders and others in the United States
for painting
for painting them as a socialist society, which they're actually not.
Titling them one. So, we've talked a little bit about, as even as poor people, we live as kings, in comparison to some other countries and stuff. And maybe that's where some of these people get the idea that we could make it happen. because the people that are pushing it, it's like shoving everything. It's like the chess game. Like the pawns are literally giving everything away, pushing it up the hill, and they don't realize it's the worst for them. Only the people that are up above you will really reap the benefits of it long term, and then even that could collapse eventually. But they don't even know that they're paving their own road, but it's right off a cliff.
Do you think that? Okay, so I was listening to another podcast. Dennis Prager does this fireside chat podcast, and he was talking about freedom and liberty and how those concepts really are not, I would say, natural for humans. Like he was saying that the natural instinct for humans is really not about freedom and liberty. It's really about safety and security. And you have to give up, freedom and liberty in order to have that safety and security.
Right.
And he says that this concept it's very important to understand, because without those freedoms, without the liberty, you become subservient to whoever's in power.
Yeah.
And we've seen what that looks like in history.
Yeah.
But do you think that there's this innate drive to be free?
No.
Yeah,
I think we've taken that for granted. It's been given to us. We didn't have to fight for it.
Yeah, and I think there would be fewer of us
if I knew
that understood what it was.
Yeah, if I had Grandpa's, uniform up on the freaking, up on the wall, and he didn't make it, that is a reminder. There's so many people, and I'll be fair. I know I take things for granted too, not to the extent of other people, but the people that piss on our what the founding fathers were striving for, and not to keep beating a dead horse, but like some people that talk poorly about our country get in trouble and then beg for the country to do something for them. And watch this. Watch this. If she does get to come back, you know what I'm talking about, she'll probably be bitching about why the country didn't do it fast enough. And, people forget that when I travel, I want to feel the weight of, I want America. I got help. I got backup, She doesn't have a whole lot of backup, does she?
Yeah.
And, but she did something wrong, and wrong is wrong.
I think that we, at least, I think we're in a culture that's getting more and more farther and farther away from what the original understanding of freedom and liberty is. Do you think that the difference between, let's just say, out in the real world, us as adults living under, an American government, constitution, local and, state level government, versus how we interact in our own homes? Because I think in terms, we're decent parents. I think we're pretty decent parents. How we have certain limitations and restrictions in our homes, but still preach freedom and liberty when it comes to once you get of age and you become an adult.
But see, my daughter, she gets more freedoms and liberties if she just follows my little bit of the rules.
Yeah.
But it's for the better well, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at let's just say other households where maybe they have a different political view than us, and they're all about being an activist, about maybe they are on the left and they are pushing for all of these, carbon restrictions, can't have straws or plastic bags anymore. All of these government imposed restrictions. Do you think that the kids that are living under that roof are going to then perpetuate this idea of, well, government really needs to come in and control these people? Or do you think that these people that live in that are going to grow and realize how restrictive their world is?
I don't know. I want to say, 50 years ago, we thought for ourselves at least, and we would know, hey man, we're getting trapped in here.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I feel that they're like, give me more, please. I need more. Feed me more. Take care of me more. Like they yearn for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel that way. Like people don't want to work. They want to see how much they could get from the government so that they could live a certain lifestyle, the best lifestyle they can, without doing anything. And that's their goal in life, to find how to get without giving. And then they teach that to their kids too. That's great. So I don't know. The way I see it is I feel that all of our kids are, for the most part, they're changing and not seeing what we used to see or what our parents used to see or what our grandparents used to see as our country and how we would act as a culture. And now, kids, oh my gosh. I mean, they will call the cops on you. They will beat you up. I mean, there's no respect, no care, no fear, it seems like. I mean, or less. I don't know. I feel like that the culture and society is collapsing because there's no structure to help guide them. And I'm going to use, I don't think I'm strict. I just think I'm very firm in the rules that I have. I don't have a whole lot of rules, but the rules that I have, you best not be breaking them, and the rest of it is easy going, really. But I know that there's other people, even that have the same beliefs as I do. For the most part, I'm talking like political or religion and stuff. But if they don't parenting and are way more relaxed in their structure of how they discipline or just raise them in general, they have more problems. They venture off, and then they actually will end up helping them become worse. I don't know.
I think
it's good to have structure even in liberty, but I feel that our founding fathers tried to put that there for us to give us structure and to still have liberty and to still have dialogue with people that have disagreements and to still grow this whole country. I mean, they call it a melting pot for a reason. It might sound like negative, but it's a positive thing that there's so many freaking diverse, again, not just race, but religion and skilled human beings here.
Culture,
we should be like holding hands and singing and dancing on a hilltop. We should be having a good time instead of feeling that. I feel like the government's just poking us and pissing us off at each other because we're all usually, for the most part, good freaking people who want to have a good damn time.
But I think your point about structure is the important piece. Like, kids need structure when they're growing up. Without structure, there ends up being a lot of chaos. And I think that we're starting to see the results of a lot of that lack of structure. We're seeing it in the educational system, right. Obviously. We're seeing it in parenting all over the place.
Kids don't get liberty until they're 18.
Well, and the thing is that I don't think that they understand. It's like they have all this freedom to do stuff. If their parents aren't super active in their life, they have all this freedom to do stuff until they're 18. 18 is when normally you would have to watch what you do a little bit more. You'd have to grow up a little bit more because the consequences are much more severe.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of in a spot where, like I said, a lot of these prosecutors are not prosecuting. You had mentioned, this rapist who didn't get prosecuted. Really, I mean, let out
the judge that did that.
Yeah, the judge let him out
despicable.
Because they didn't want to ruin the rest of their life. But there's positivity in having consequences, because who knows, maybe this person decided that, well, I can get off this time.
How do you build? Sometimes you have to tear down.
But I think that part of freedom and liberty, there has to still be some structure. Our Constitution lays out some structure, and I think within that provides us, well, it used to provide us quite a lot of liberty and freedoms.
To me, it's like a football team, and the structure they provide is the lineman, and they create that gap in the big hole for us to have that liberty. It allows us to live that way, and when we start taking it away, it's like cinching up your belt. You start getting confined, and you're going to have a lot more chaos. And liberty is not feeling pressure,
Mm-hmm.
And there's everybody from every class there is feeling pressure. This, especially the last 3 freaking years.
Yeah.
We should be done.
Yeah, with
I don't
COVID.
care who you are, we should be done, and we should be pissed off about. I don't care what side you're on. The division that Biden was putting on us to divide our country, and I don't care if it was a Republican president and trying to do that to the other side, is it's trying to poke a fight or something. I don't understand what his point is. I understand his point, but that's a big deal what he did.
Yeah.
And said.
Well, yeah. So if folks don't know, maybe we'll insert the video clip here. Biden had a big speech. It wasn't supposed to be a political speech. It turned out to be a very political speech and very divisive.
One of the worst.
Against a certain segment of the voter bloc. And yeah, it's not good for the country to have identifying these things and making them very, very, I guess, putting them in a very, very negative light and just sort of with a broad brush painting all these people as this bad segment, and you shouldn't agree with them. You shouldn't follow their ideology or whatever.
And that
these are
opens
Americans,
the door for violence onto the other side. Or
these are Americans that, half the United States voted this way. So you're including quite a large population, and I don't think it's super.
It's unbelievable that there's no effort ever anymore. Freaking try to get people to come over to your side and say, this is why you should join our team because we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. Mm-hmm. No, we're going to kill the opposition.
Yeah.
That is not American. That's dictatorship, communism.
So on this other area you were talking about, with COVID restrictions, we experienced a lot of restrictions to our liberties and freedoms, and we kind of let it go. Some of us let it go in the early stages because it was, it was about safety. It was about protecting the population from this disease.
The fear was so great that it made sense to a point.
And it was to the point where it was like only temporary. It was like a short 2-week period, and then it started to get out of hand. And we're still in these stages where at least Oregon still puts restrictions in certain areas. Certain counties will have mask mandates again, depending on what the infection rate is.
Unbelievable.
But what I wanted to get to was, and I guess we're running out of time here, but was the differences. So we talked about the freedoms, liberties within the family unit versus what's out in the real world. I would say the other area that's sort of touching the real world, but not really, which is your job. Right? Because during COVID, sad. There were so many industries and so many employers that felt like they had to be strong-armed into following the rules of the government as they were implementing them. And then there are these other companies that felt a moral obligation, or just they agreed with that side of the fence that this is the thing that needs to happen. And so now you're in a position where you don't have the same freedom of speech. You don't have the same constitutional rights when you're working for someone, because when you're working for someone, it's basically a contract that you're going to do this work for this pay. And a lot of us, our way of life is locked into that contract, and we had to change our personal actions or beliefs in such a way that we wouldn't lose our job.
Right. I should go make ice cream cones and punch in and punch out, and all I should give a damn about is making a good freaking ice cream cone. You shouldn't have to be sitting there and watch a video of what the company's view on this culture is.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't care. It's not gonna help you speed up your progress. Do I dare say it might even mess it up? You don't want a tennis player to be in there making ice cream cones. You want somebody that's capable of making ice cream cones.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well, I think a lot of businesses are so
they're
tied
focusing
into
on the wrong things right now.
well, they're so tied into what local and state and sometimes federal government is allowing you to do as an entity. And in order to stay in compliance, they have to then adjust. I know in public education, there's a lot of restrictions and I would say values that are being placed on the school systems that are not the values of the students nor the parents of those students, but they're funded by government. And so because of that, they feel like there's some tied hands. And so that's another area where even just as an employee working for one of those institutions, you still have some restrictions to your freedoms and liberties.
Oh, for sure.
And unfortunately, we're in a world where switching jobs is not necessarily an easy thing. There's a certain standard of living that people have grown to expect and enjoy. And once you decide that your values need to remain and you leave that place of work.
We just need to stop biting the dadgum hook that everybody's so fucking hateful. Mm-hmm. We're not freaking hateful. We don't need to have these freaking classes to say stop. Mm-hmm. We've been holding hands with these people that they're saying that we are hating on for all these years. Now they're trying to make us look at them going, oh, I guess maybe I didn't like you. I guess that's what they're telling me. I've been mistreating you, I guess. And they're like, no, you haven't. No, you're wrong. I mean,
yes. Yeah.
It's insulting to us. Mm-hmm. It's insulting because, sorry, on this panel, I know you guys have put in 35 years. So you guys are all nuclear physicists, but you guys are all white. We've got to at least have, somebody from the LGBT community, a woman of color, but they're not nuclear physicists.
Yeah,
I want somebody that could give me nuclear physicists input. Yeah, and I don't want a really good mathematician. They're good mathematicians, though. Yeah, but we needed the physicist here, and there's amazing people that do amazing things, and I wish that we could not even look at and here's the other argument that about this. I got to say that. The argument is of when people say, I don't care about I'm not going to care about your skin or color or your sexual preference. And they're like, oh, well, that is who I am. So that means you hate me or you don't care about me. Mm-hmm. But, that's, in my opinion, those are people that are wanting to have the division because the point of me saying is all I care about is what makes you you. I might even care so much as you always wear those crazy shirts, man. So why are you wearing those crazy shirts? Oh my gosh, I love Star Wars. You don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But that's not what really matters to me. And if people can't understand that, I feel like they have to do some digging because what I really care about is what you have to say.
Is that an identity politics thing? Where people just really identify with this one thing and nothing else seems to matter. Like if you can't agree with me on this one thing, then
everything goes
nothing else matters. We can't be friends. We can't, because of this one thing. It's like I have a lot of friends that I don't agree with every aspect of their life, but that becomes a lesser thing because the other parts of their life are more important.
That's right. But these days you can't have it that way. You can't love everything about you and then go, whoa, wait a minute. You believe that you don't want anybody having abortions? No, we're not like that, man. We're not. No, we can't do that. Fuck you. Mm-hmm. And it's over.
Yeah. Or just, hey, did you vote for Trump? Oh, well, I can't be friends anymore.
Yeah, that's the easiest one.
But
sure.
I mean, to me, that is like if that's where someone is identified your entire value, I'm just like, but it's really too bad that you can't get along in any other way.
But I feel that has been taken away from us. I feel that has been a liberty, and we fell into it. You know what I mean?
We were
those rat bastards. They did that.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think we've been kind of pushed into this position. Our culture has pushed us this way with a heavy hand of the government.
I mean, so I'm going to screw this up, but there's a little comic, and there's this king sitting over his balcony, and he's got his, I don't know, one of his guys on his side sitting there, and the king's like, "Oh my gosh, they're on their way. They're going to kill me." Go, no, you're good. Just make up something that'll piss the torch guys off. So the pitchfork guys will make up a lie. So the pitchfork guys want to kill the torch guys, and then you're good, and come on, there's proof of that kind of stuff happening, and we just need to try to look through it. It's hard to do, especially when we're trying to survive, and then passing all these crazy laws without us having our rights to vote things through and to have a discussion about it, or even taking away our ability to discuss. I mean, there's a lot of our liberties that they've, you've touched base on some of them, but, our liberty to not be penetrated through the border, people penetrating our border and be feeling unsafe, that's a big deal. Regardless of what anybody says, I believe we're in a recession. I mean, we cannot go out and get things that we are, boo-hoo, I guess, because we're America and maybe... who cares? We have expectations, and we're not getting them. But people are getting. You talked about, Mr. Trump got raided. All these weird things. What is it legal? Was it really legal? I don't know. But our inflation, we're having to pay for even more, and who knows where our money's really going towards. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The long list of
in the government,
things that feel like our liberty is getting taken away in all aspects in our life.
But our government is playing such a role of manipulating us. And, even just recently, Biden's talking about forgiving all this student debt, and then this other bill that was passed, that was the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation. It was like a whole bunch of money put into the system to support, climate stuff. And when you're throwing a whole bunch of money into the system that's already inflated, you're just perpetuating that inflation. And then additional lies that are coming from the government about, that the deficit spending has been, eliminated under this current administration, but it's just not true. When you're still spending, I don't know how many trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars that is debt spending, and then you just decide that you're not going to spend $1 trillion of it, but rather 500 billion of it, you're still debt spending.
Yep.
That's not debt reduction.
I am so sick of all presidents freaking spending more money than we bring in. It's easy freaking math.
But
we need to stop it.
But it's the manipulation that bothers me. It's the dishonesty that bothers me, because the government is having a direct impact on the society that we're living in, the amount of freedom and liberty that we are supposed to have. They're manipulating it.
Well, and it's easy when I'm yelling at you and not knowing what's going on over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the shiny object. Let's look over here. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Dave?
Nope. I just feel a little bit light in the liberty sack.
Yeah.
And I think we all, both sides, deserve freaking better.
Yeah.
We do in America. Be proud about it.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We would appreciate that. If you are listening just to the podcast, hey, tell a friend. We'd really appreciate that.
Yes, please.
We'd love to grow the audience. You can find more information on our website,
nevertooserious.com.
And until we see you next time, take care.
And be safe.